Thank you everyone for joining. We still have a few more folks coming in, but wanted to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining today for our Marketplace Live demo presented by Aria. And we have Joe Rosa here with us today, Solutions Engineer, who'll be presenting. Um, and just wanted to let everyone know if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat throughout the discussion, and Joe will get to them at the end. If you have any questions, again, just drop them into the chat at any time, and we'll be happy to answer. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe.
All right, thanks a lot. Welcome everyone. My name's Joe Rosa. I'm a solutions engineer at Airia. So what I'm going to be covering today is a demonstration of the Airia platform. Really with the Airia platform, there's three main pillars that we focus on. So the first is AI orchestration, which is how do we allow you to build out your AI agents and workflows. So I'll walk through our agent building capabilities and how you can orchestrate across multiple agents. From there, we'll talk through the security capabilities. So how does Airia discover any shadow AI that might be used in the company or in the firm, as well as how do we apply different guardrails to those models to protect things like firm sensitive data, protect against things like proprietary information, against people from putting sensitive information into models, as well as how do we limit the capabilities and constrain and bound the actions that agents can take. And then lastly, I'll talk through our AI governance. So how do we help you understand everywhere where you're using AI throughout the firm? How do you understand any risks from a compliance standpoint as new regulations come out, starting with the EU AI Act and soon to be more regulations here, as well as how do you just understand, your risk posture related to certain agents? So a lot to cover here. We're going to start on the orchestration front, and what the orchestration front allows you to do is build out agents, test them to understand how they're performing as different models come out. We allow you to quickly iterate and use the new models and also test those against previous models to understand what's going to work best, if you should upgrade to new models, etc. From there, I will talk through the different deployment options. So how do you deploy this through things like scheduled agents? How do you have email triggers for agents so people don't have like another chatbot that they have to go to? They can just kick off an agent via an email trigger or embed this into Slack or Teams, or chatbots on your website. And then lastly, how do you operationalize this? So how do you or optimize these? So how do you optimize for things like cost? How do you make sure you're getting the most out of your agents, you're using the right models, etc.? So we'll start on that orchestration front. The first thing we have within Airia is the ability to select agents that are pre-built from a community of agents that our customers have built and are contributing to. So if you just want to day one start to leverage some of the out of the box agents that Airia provides, you can come to our community, use these and deploy these out and start to use these day one to get value from the platform. Now, when you select these agents from the community, or you start to build out your own agents, what you can do is you can deploy a catalog like this where your end users can go to start to use these agents that have been built for them. So where a lot of our firms start is something like this, where we provide the catalog where people can test and explore the functionality of these different models. And they can do so in a containerized, secure place where your IT teams and security teams will be able to audit and understand all the usage of AI, and there's not the shadow AI problem. From there, you can start to use our agent builder to build out additional workflows. So the way this works is you have your different components. So things like the different models that you want to use, where you can come in and select what are the different models that you want to make available in the organization to build agents on top of. You can either choose models from the Airia library so that you don't have to procure your own model if you just want to test the functionality of a new model that comes out, or you can bring your own model. So if you do have your own agreement and you want to use that with one of the model providers, you can bring that custom model, provide your credentials and endpoint there, and start to use that in those agents you're building. You then have the ability to connect to different data sources throughout the firm. So if you have, unstructured data in these different sources here, what we can do is we can connect up to these different systems, pull in that data, and then make this searchable for any of your AI agents. So if I have, contracts, or if I have, terms or standard terms, or I have any kind of client files, what this allows me to do is connect up to these different systems and then make these available in those agents that I'm building. So if an agent needs to search these, it has the capabilities to go and do that. We also can allow this to start to these agents to start to take actions. So you have the ability to select from different tools into different systems that your firm might be using. So if you need to get data from systems or update different systems within your workflow, you have the ability to use these out-of-the-box tools to give your agent additional capabilities to take action within all those firm systems that you're using day to day. As well as for those of you who are familiar with MCP servers, the ability to leverage any of the MCP servers through the Airia library, or bring your own MCP server. So these tools are really where you can start to connect to, different systems like an iManage or NetDocs, where you can provide these APIs and allow the agents to start to take action, to search data, to update data, etc. With these different components, what we give you is a canvas to start to build out these agents that are going to leverage these components. So as an example here, I could quickly build an agent that's going to leverage a data source as well as a model. On the left-hand side here, when I do a new draft, what you get is the ability to start to build out this workflow and customize it. So in this case here, I have a data source, which is 450 contracts that this agent can now search through. It's all drag and drop on this canvas. So if I want to add additional data sources that this agent can search, I can drag that onto the canvas here. And then now this agent's going to have access to not only those contracts, but also this data source that has, standard terms here. Or if I want to include things like email inboxes, where I want to pull this in and allow an agent to search a mailbox, I have the ability to select these data sources that I want to include in these agent and drag and drop these on the canvas. You also can start to equip this with those different tools and actions. So if I want this to be able to search the web or send an email or create an envelope in DocuSign or any of these different actions here, you can decide what are the different APIs that you want to allow this agent to take. And it's just a click, point, drag, drop interface where you're deciding on what tools do we want to make available within this agent workflow. From here, you get the ability to start to test your agents and compare different versions. So maybe instead of using a Claude 4 or 5 Sonnet model, I want to see how does this perform if I switch to, a GPT-5 model or a Gemini model. So what I can do is I can actually select different models, have different versions of these, and then I can start to see, okay, how does this perform if I use version 1 versus version 2, etc. And so I can do this compare playground where I say, if I use, model 1, that's using a certain model, but if I use version 2, that's using a different model, you can actually type the same kind of prompt in here and then see what the response is for that iteration or that version of the agent. So this allows you to really compare things on multiple dimensions, and you can have multiple of these in parallel. So you're testing different models, different data sources, et cetera. And how does that ultimately affect not only the output of your agent, but also the token costs and the latency of the agent that you're running. Once you build an agent, you have the ability to deploy this in multiple different ways. So the first way you can deploy this is through an API. So this agent becomes an API that anybody can call to run this agent from like another system. But then we also have really interfaces to meet attorneys or meet users where they're at. So things like an email inbox where you can email a certain inbox here, the agent will run and then send back an email to the user who executed that agent. So this is a really powerful tool where someone doesn't have to go into another system. They just send an email to an inbox, and then they get back an email with the response as if they're emailing a colleague for some work to get done. Another example is a scheduled agent. We see this a lot for like researching. So whether it's a new regulation or you want to research like court feeds, the scheduled agent allows you to set up a cadence for an agent to just go out, do its work. And then oftentimes in those research cases, we have examples where at the end of the research, it'll send out an email to the team. So no one even logs into the platform. It's just an agent that does work on a scheduled cadence, and the end result is an email or a document that goes out to your team. We also see firms deploy these into Slack bots or Teams bots. So instead of go to a chat interface, I just message Teams, I message a Slack bot, and then I get back a response from that agent. We can deploy this into WhatsApp, as well as a chat widget that you could put a chat bot on your website, where people can just go and chat with the agent that you've deployed here. We also have a browser extension and a Word extension. So the Word extension we see used a lot for like contract redlining. So upload a playbook, analyze the contract against that playbook, and choose which agent you want to use from Airia on the back end, as well as a browser extension that has access to the page content that you're on. So if you're reading, a long document and you just want the browser or the agent to summarize what's in your browser, you have the ability to interact with this through a browser extension. The last option we give you is a dedicated front end from Airia. So what this allows you to do is any of those agents that you've built, you can deploy to your end users or attorneys throughout the firm, where they can come here and they can see all the agents that have been deployed out to them. So if they have an agent for, routing contracts, or they have an agent for reviewing contracts and pulling out key terms or summarizing them, they could come to an interface like this where they could ask a question like, what are the key terms in my Adams Golf contract? This agent has access to all those contracts on the back end here. And so it can give me an answer. We can do things like citations where it shows me, which document it's referencing and which part of the document it's referencing. So from the end user perspective, they're just coming to a catalog like this, which contains all the agents that have been deployed out for them, and they can just use and consume these through this dedicated front end. There's a few other things you can do here. So rather than just having like a chat interface, you can have things where you have a direct file upload. So in this case here, the agent is routing contracts based off of routing rules. And so what we could do here is start this off with a file where I just upload that file, and then the routing rules run, the agent analyzes it against those routing rules, and then it can make a tool call to put this in, whatever system, whatever folder, et cetera, that I need it to go in. So those are some examples of deploying this out to the catalog where your end users can go and they can start to ask questions around this. You also have a form-based approach here. So instead of kind of a generic chat, you can have a form-based approach here where maybe you're doing something like drafting a contract and you have certain fields that you want to include and you know people need to fill out. So you can have this form-based way of getting started with an agent so that it's very clear what does someone actually need to fill out versus being, confused by a generic kind of chat bot there. So that's kind of the orchestration side of things. To recap, it's the ability to build agents and then deploy these to your end users so that they can go and they can start to use these either in the catalog or really meeting users where they're at with those email integrations, those Slack integrations, Teams integrations, etc. The next thing I want to cover is the AI security. So our security and governance features allow you to first off discover what agents are being used throughout the organization. So within the Airia platform, you have the ability to see what are the different agents that you've actually connected to. So any agents that you've built in Airia will be available in a inventory where you can see all the different agents that you've created within Airia. So if I come to my Airia Security Center, I can see, every single agent that's either built in Airia or we actually have abilities to discover agents that you might have built in other platforms. So what we allow you to do is set up your integrations here or your connections to integrate with these other platforms and discover what agents have people built in these other platforms. So if someone's built agents in, Microsoft Copilot or in AWS Bedrock or any of these other solutions here, what we can do is connect up to those and then give you a report of here's all the agents that people have built within those platforms. From there, you can actually route traffic through the Airia gateway to start to apply security guardrails and agent constraints to these. So for example, if someone's built an agent in another platform, what we could do is route this through the Airia gateway. And then what happens there is the agent will, or the request will go to Airia before it actually goes to that other platform. And then Airia can apply any guardrails, which I'll show you in a second, that you've put in place to protect personal information or to limit agent behavior. So all these, the point here is Airia has the ability to discover any agents that you've built in outside platforms and then apply guardrails to how data is being treated within those workflows. The way you're going to apply those guardrails is through the security tab here, where I could say that I want to create a new guardrail and I can decide what protections I want to put in place. So, for example, if I have a policy that I want to set up to protect against people from putting credit card numbers or bank account numbers, or a lot of our clients will have certain clients that they work with who have opted out of AI usage on their data. So you can enter custom classifiers here that we can start to look for, and then we can start to apply patterns to how do we want to handle this data. So you can do an audit, which would basically show you a feed of every time that policy or violation or that policy violation occurred. You could do a block, which would prevent the request from actually going to a model. So if someone puts a credit card number in this example, that credit card number would never actually go to a model. Airia would catch that first, and then we would block that, and we would send back a user or a message to the user that says something like, this violates our policy, and we can link out to a policy that covers how we govern AI or acceptable use. And then lastly, you have a redact and replace option. So what this allows is instead of sending the actual value, so again, in this credit card number example, instead of sending the actual credit card number to a model, what Airia can do is redact that so that the model just sees like a variable or placeholder. And then when the end user gets the result back, Airia can re-add the actual value back. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, where the model doesn't actually touch the personal information that you're redacting, but the end user experience is unaffected, where Airia can add that back in later for them. And then you have the ability to target and scope these, right? So if there's certain agents where you want to have more lax standards, you can apply this just to certain these policies just to certain agents. If you want to create kind of generic policies that fit, every agent that you've built, then you can apply those. And then you can even apply this, as I mentioned earlier, to any agents built outside of Airia. So you could decide if you want to apply this to all agents outside Airia, kind of have a consistent policy regardless of where you're building agents, or if you want to apply this to specific agents outside of Airia. So that's kind of the security and guardrails that you can put in place to protect information. Now, you'll also, as people are using these agents, you'll have full visibility into everything that's occurring. So, as an example here, this is your audit logs within Airia. And so, what this is going to show you is every single agent execution that happens, you're going to have full traceability and auditability of what exactly happened there. So, what was the input here? What models were called, what data was searched, what API calls were made, how much did that transaction actually cost you? You're going to have a full visibility into everything that happens from an AI usage perspective. So really important from an auditability standpoint to be able to understand what are people actually using AI for, which agents are being executed, which users are doing that, etc. You'll also have a token consumption feed here. So you can see every single execution. How much did that actually cost you in terms of a dollar amount? So a lot of these models have different pricing structures, and it's kind of hard to just understand how much are we actually spending for each of our agent executions. And so we actually give you that information where you can see each transaction, how much did that cost you? And then we can roll this up to insights at the agent level. So how much have we spent on a specific agent or with a different model provider? And then you can start to use these insights to maybe optimize your agents for cost or for quality, where you can use that playground and battleground feature to see, okay, if I switch this agent from a more expensive model to a cheaper model, do I still get a similar quality? And then if you do, then you can push that out and publish that. And now you've, implemented some cost savings there. The other thing I want to cover is the feeds for security. So the agent executions is going to show you every single transaction, but then you're also going to have security feeds for all of those violations that occur. So you'll see where is someone trying to do like a prompt injection attack, or where is someone trying to put in API keys or account credentials into a model. You'll see all those DLP violations. So, where did someone try to put in a driver's license number? You can actually see the action that was taken here. So in this case, someone tried to put in a credit card number, Airia found it and actually blocked that transaction. So you have full auditability of all the things you're doing to keep that sensitive information safe. So let me check the chat. I want to see if there's any questions, but that's kind of a brief overview of the Airia platform. Um, cool. So first question here is, on average, how quick is it to implement my first agent? Similarly, what does a successful rollout typically look like, and how long would it take? So, kind of the journey we see a lot of organizations take is starting really simple with the agents that they're deploying. So, we'll see a lot of organizations that will start with just deploying those models to the catalog so that someone can just go to an agent. They have a sanction list of here's the models that you can go and use, and just allowing people to start to use these in this catalog day one. Then what a lot of organizations do is they use those feeds to understand what are the common requests that people are asking these base models. So when people go to, these GPT models or these Gemini models or Claude models, what kinds of things are they asking that model to do? And then they're using that to inform what agents should they use that backend platform to actually go out and build. And so that's where you'll have your team who's building agents go review those requests and then start to build out more dedicated workflows that use, your actual enterprise data that could start to take action and have a more kind of agentic type workflow. Another question is, can you talk about building agents with Airia versus tools like Harvey and Legora? So, yeah, this is a question we get asked a lot. I'd say those tools, Airia is an agnostic platform where we didn't start with kind of the legal vertical in mind. We started with a broader approach that really was, how do we allow organizations in any vertical to go and build agents for specific use cases? So when you have something like a point solution, those are things that legal specific platforms are going to do really well. So if you need to do things like search through your contracts or do legal research, or you need to draft a document, those are things that these point solutions are going to do very well. Where and you probably wouldn't use Airia for. Where you would use Airia is for the everything else. Right. So those with the point solutions, you get kind of more rigid functionality where you're not able to customize as much. And so for everything else, like the back office operations, we have a lot of companies or firms that will use us for things like timesheets, or we'll have companies or organizations that use us for just like ask legal questions, where you can upload all of your FAQs for legal, and then people can ask a chat bot. You can have things like human in the loop, where it goes to a human to actually review the AI answer before that goes back to the end user who asked the question. So I'd say the big difference between some of those tools in the market and Airia is we're meant to be more for building for building a general set of capabilities that can apply to a broader set of use cases, whereas those tools are going to be more focused on specific use cases and workflows that they're going to do very well. In terms of questions here, pricing model. So it's typically either going to be the amount of users you have or usage. We're pretty flexible on pricing. And so we meet with the organization to understand where they're at, what their use cases are, and price according to either one of those models, whichever makes sense for you. And then it is a subscription to Airia. So that would be, you would have your base subscription to the platform. And then anything in terms, the only other costs you would incur would be like the costs of executing the models. So if you're using Airia models, we do pass through billing on that, so we don't charge any kind of markup on those model calls. If you're bringing your own models, then you're just calling those and you're paying whatever you would for usage of those models. Looks like that's it for questions here. So I think with that we can wrap up.